We are going to recap the 2019 American drama film Yes, God, Yes. It is about Alice, a young innocent Catholic girl, who is tempted to masturbate after an AOL discussion suddenly turned sexual, but she is conflicted because the act is deemed sinful. So, let's start the recap. The main character in the movie was a girl named Alice, and she went to a high school that had some really strict rules because it was religious. When Alice walked into the school building, she could see her teacher, Veda, scolding students who broke those rules. But Alice was different. She always followed the rules and never got in trouble. In one of her classes, they learned about sexual education, but it had a strong religious focus. Their teacher, Priest Murphy, was also a priest who often heard confessions from his students. In this class, Murphy emphasized that they should not have sex before getting married because God is always watching. He talked about the sacrament of matrimony and how it's essential to follow God's teachings. After school, Alice had a friend named Laura. They were pretty close and liked sharing stories with each other. When Alice got home, she was greeted by her dog, Gus. After grabbing a bite to eat from the kitchen, Alice went to her room and got on her computer. She enjoyed playing online games with people from the internet. On this day, she was playing a game called Word Shuffle. While Alice was having fun with her game, she suddenly received a chat message from an email she didn't recognize. One day, Alice received a message from someone who claimed to have seen her in a chat room before. This person sent her an inappropriate picture of himself and his wife, which really surprised Alice. To make it even stranger, this person offered to send another inappropriate picture. Alice felt both confused and curious about this situation, so she decided to call her mom just to make sure her mom wasn't nearby. Unfortunately, her mom didn't answer the call. So, Alice started chatting with this person. At first, the person asked about her age, gender, and where she lived, and Alice answered those questions. Then, the person asked for a picture of Alice. She found a photo of herself with another woman, scanned it, and sent it to the person. The stranger complimented her on her looks and suggested doing something inappropriate online. Innocent Alice agreed, and the person started sending her inappropriate messages, asking her to respond. She was willing to do what the person said. Just when she was about to start, her mom called her for dinner, and Alice quickly shut down her computer. The following day, Alice's friends, including Laura, gave her a ride to school. They mentioned a rumor that Alice had been alone in a sauna with someone named Wade. Alice immediately denied the rumor, but it seemed like she might have some interest in Wade. At school, they were going to start studying Galatians. One day, while Alice and Laura were having lunch, a woman named Beth visited them. Beth talked about how she had a great time at the school's retreat activities and wore a necklace she received during the retreat. She encouraged Alice and Laura to join the retreat. Afterward, Beth joined Nina's group, which seemed to be popular. While they chatted, Alice went to get some milk. On her way, she bumped into Wade, who was holding hands with Heather. When Alice greeted them, they seemed disgusted and walked away. Later, Alice took part in a religious ritual with other students. Usually, she was the one who brought offerings, but this time Veda assigned Heather to do it. Veda did this because she had heard gossip about Alice and Wade, which made Alice jealous. Alice noticed that Heather was wearing the same necklace as Beth, indicating that she had also attended the retreat. Soon after, the event was held again, and Alice decided to follow. At the location, she saw Murphy and several student leaders, including Nina and Laura, who seemed to admire her. Alice noticed a man who caught her attention and learned that he was Chris. While watching Chris, Nina invited Alice to stay in her cabin because she was apparently placed there. Nina was really nice and she had a big smile on her face. She asked Alice to give her the watch and cell phone because they couldn't use them during the event. Alice handed over her watch but secretly kept her cell phone hidden. Nina told her to go to the room with her name on the door and reminded her, "No phones, okay?" When the first event started, they split into groups. Alice was in group 1, led by Chris, which made her very happy. After everyone found their seats in their groups, Murphy started leading the event and went over the schedule. The activities kept going, and after lunch, there was a session where one person shared their story in front of everyone. It was Nina's turn, and she shared a sad story. Many people were moved by her story, but some didn't pay attention and started doodling instead. Later that night, Alice, who couldn't sleep, played games. Eventually, she became interested in playing by herself. The next day, the program began again. They started the morning by forming a circle and singing together. Then, they went outside to enjoy nature and admire the things God created. At that moment, Alice saw Chris behind her, surrounded by many girls. One of the girls near Chris fell down, and he quickly helped her. Alice didn't look happy when she saw this, but she came up with an idea. Alice decided to pretend she had an injury by dropping herself on purpose. She made sure to act like it was a big deal, saying, "Oh my God, my leg." Chris, who's always caring, rushed over to check on her. He was surprised to see her leg supposedly hurt. Chris helped her get up, but Alice insisted she couldn't walk. So, Chris picked her up and carried her to the clinic. Alice felt satisfied that her plan seemed to be working. Later, when Alice was alone in her room, she couldn't resist checking her cell phone. But as soon as she heard someone approaching, she quickly hid it in the closet. It turned out to be Nina, who told her they were going to take a picture together. While they were in the room, Nina heard something in the closet and decided to check. Nina found Alice's cell phone and reported it to Murphy. Then, they all headed outside for a group photo. After the photo, Murphy called Alice and immediately started talking about her cell phone. Alice was given a punishment for her mistake, and a nun was in charge of it. Her first task was to clean the trash cans. Once the trash cans were clean, she had to mop the room. When Alice finished mopping, she put her cleaning tools away. Interestingly, the storage area was close to Murphy's room, which was empty at the time. Alice noticed Murphy's computer and couldn't resist the temptation. She secretly used it and opened the general chat room to ask some questions. Little did she know, her questions turned into a joke among her friends. But something unexpected happened. The person she asked replied with inappropriate sentences. Soon after, Alice heard someone approaching, so she hurriedly turned off the computer, not realizing it wasn't completely off. In the evening, they continued with their program, which included reading letters from the students' parents. It was a touching moment. The next day, they had an activity where they talked in groups. Alice was in group 1, along with Chris and others. During this activity, one of her groupmates shared a sad story about her grandmother passing away and her dog being abandoned by her grandmother. She cried and looked very upset, but Alice didn't find it sad. Instead, it seemed strange to her. After everyone shared their stories, Chris looked at Alice, signaling that it was her turn. Alice, unsure of what to say, made up a story about her dog, claiming that her dog had passed away. In reality, her dog, Gus, was still alive and well. During lunch, Murphy announced that someone had used his computer to chat with others. He wanted the person responsible to confess. However, Alice, who had actually done it, pretended not to know. Later, while she was serving her punishment of cleaning the floor, she encountered Wade, who didn't seem to like her. They discussed the rumors about them and ended up arguing. Alice was upset because Wade didn't deny the rumor, and Wade was upset because the rumor had caused him to break up with Heather. As Wade left, he tossed away a wristband with Heather's name on it, and Alice picked it up. She then moved on to mop another room. During that time, something happened. Alice accidentally saw Nina engaging in inappropriate behavior with Adam, who was also a group leader. Shocked by what she witnessed, Alice confided in Laura. However, Laura, who greatly admired Nina, didn't believe Alice's account. She thought Alice was making up stories for attention, just like the one about her dog Gus. After this, Alice went back to her cleaning duties. When she entered Murphy's room, she noticed there was no one around. Alice decided to hide Wade's bracelet beneath Murphy's computer. However, she couldn't leave the room in time because Murphy returned. Alice had to hide and wait for the right moment to sneak out. During this wait, she unfortunately witnessed Murphy watching inappropriate content. Once she escaped from that situation, Alice ran into Chris. Concerned by her depressed state, Chris approached her to talk. In a surprising turn of events, Alice kissed Chris, catching him off guard and scaring him away. That evening, there was a planned sing-along. However, Alice, upset by the previous incidents, decided to leave. She walked until she found a bar and went inside. There, she ordered a drink and appeared quite exhausted. A woman at the bar recognized Alice as a member of the Catholic Youth Retreat due to her attire. This woman offered some comforting advice, which helped ease Alice's worries. She kindly drove Alice back to the retreat place before parting ways. The woman at the bar, who turned out to be the owner, suggested that Alice explore studying in both the East and West Coast areas. The following day, during lunch, Alice noticed Murphy calling Wade to talk to him. Then, the confessions and confessionals began. Laura approached Alice earlier and apologized for her accusations. It seemed that word had spread that Wade was the one who had used Murphy's computer. Surprisingly, it came out that Wade was actually gay, and he had been trying to cover it up by dating Heather and spreading gossip about Alice. When the confessional session started, Wade stepped forward and confessed that he had been tempted by lust. Alice saw how distressed Wade looked, and she decided to express her thoughts. However, her words didn't sit well with the people, so she stepped down from the podium and resigned. After the retreat ended, everyone returned home. Alice continued attending church with her father, but her enthusiasm had diminished. At school, Alice encountered Chris, who seemed awkward and tried to avoid her. Seeing Chris's behavior, Alice approached him and promised that she wouldn't treat him poorly again. She even invited him to be friends once more, and Chris returned to his usual self. That day, it was apparently Alice's turn to confess to Murphy. Alice then mentioned that she had seen a sex video during the retreat. She went on to describe what happened in the video, which turned out to be something Murphy had watched secretly. After hearing this, Murphy appeared uncomfortable and didn't give Alice a harsh punishment. Alice herself didn't seem as unsettled as before. Now, she had a clearer sense of what she wanted in life. She had plans to attend universities on both the West and East Coasts. Apart from that, Alice was living her life on her own terms, pursuing her own dreams and desires.